Estás viendo Canal América, televisión dominicana para el mundo.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got, but the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your fears.
Bienvenidos al Tiempo para la Verdad. I want to welcome you to A Time for Truth. And we got a great show today. Very important times. And Engineer Buddha is going to put up on the screen some pictures of our special guest today. Married father of 3, worked over 35 years in our communities as a law enforcement official and public advocate. For Anthony, it's always been an honor to serve by tackling difficult issues such as promoting social, economic, and political inclusion of the diverse cultural backgrounds of our New York communities, which obviously can be quite a handful for any New Yorker who lives here knows. Facilitating economic relief for small local businesses, standing up for criminal justice and safer streets, very important topic, and promoting youth mentorship and leadership programs. So we have a future, because without kids, what future is there? And it's our honor today to have on A Time for Truth, Mr. Anthony Miranda. Buddha, let's put him up on the screen. And welcome our guests. Bienvenido, Anthony Miranda. ¿Cómo estás?
Bienvenidos. Gracias por la oportunidad de hablar con la comunidad ahí. I'm here with you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to everybody. This is extremely important. And I'm always glad to join you, Doctor.
It's a pleasure to have you. You and I know each other a long time, doing a lot with drug education, community activities. You have 3 kids. You're a family man. So I wanted to start out with first, with that background, is what is it really in your heart that motivates you?
There's part of what our purpose is to ensure that when there's somebody in need and you have the ability to help them, that you make sure that you make everything available to them. It's a service. Our life and our careers and everything that we do is in service of others. And that's extremely important. And that being the basis of just being able to serve somebody else, it's a blessing to be and a gift to be able to help someone else in need.
Absolutely. You know, I know from knowing you, you've been involved in making the community safe, law enforcement for many years, and there's a lot going on in those issues in today's world. So I wanted you to voice some of your feelings on what you would like to see happen in terms of our communities and safety.
Well, we know that on everybody's mind right now is public safety. We know we need reform. There's no question that reform is necessary. We need to advance our abilities in protecting our communities. So we know that reform is necessary, but we also know that we have to keep our families safe. We have to keep our families safe where they live at, the children when they go to school, your parents when they go to the store, local grocery store, and that can't be the answer we're looking for. So in this current climate, while there are many people talking about reform, there is responsible reform, and that we cannot be reckless in the things that we're proposing, because we cannot jeopardize the safety of our families and our children in this climate. So I said, part of what I do is bring a balanced approach to the conversation. Sometimes people don't know the history of how we got to where we are today. I mean, many people talk about the police department and their budget. So I want to explain to you that didn't happen overnight, first thing. And the second thing is the police department doesn't approve its budget. This budget is approved by the city council and the mayor, by the people who represent us. The New York City Police Department became such a large budget because it took over housing, it took over transit, it took over traffic agents, it took over school safety officers, it took over maybe one or two other agencies as well. So when they incorporated all the other different agencies to create the network of communication and response and support, that's how the budget became so large in the New York City Police Department. So when we are now talking about downsizing the police department, we need to be very careful what we mean by that. Separating the agencies into having their own individual budgets, that seems possible. But when we look at where we came from, many of those agencies that they're now talking about formulating all over again, I have to question what kind of leadership are those agencies going to have? How are they going to be responsive? And are they going to still be part of the communication network that's needed to ensure everyone's safety?
Absolutely. You spoke at our dental study club, where about 50 different local dental practitioners gather, and we learn about different topics in dentistry. And you presented a little bit to us then, and I thought it was very important because it was more than dentistry. It was for all local businesses and local entrepreneurs, especially with all this COVID economic stress. So I wanted you to speak a little bit about that, Anthony.
So we have hundreds, if not thousands, of businesses that are going under right now. And the same way that we are creating support for all the other parts of our community, small business owners need to have the same level of support. We need to ensure that not only that they get relief because their businesses were suffered during COVID, but as well as making sure that they have the ability to negotiate renewal on their contracts for their leases, right? That's another thing that's hurt many of our communities. They are unable to get a reasonable lease after serving sometimes in some communities 20, 30 years, and then their lease comes up and the price is so high, there's no reasonableness in the expense, right? So there are a number of different ways that we can help small business owners, that we have methods for business owners to tap into our health network as well and be able to defer some of those costs, because these are the things that are most expensive for business owners. And small businesses are how our communities survive. Not only do our communities rely on them for service, but they also employ many residents of the local community. And that means those are jobs. And that's the way our economy grows and comes back, is if the small business owners are surviving and thriving, then that means our communities now have the opportunity, access to resources and the opportunities to grow. And that's the message that we have to have. Since I ran for many different offices, I understood that small business owners, and myself being a business owner, that we provide a vital service that will help our communities grow and the economy grow overall. So we need to make sure that we stay focused on that as well. We cannot sacrifice one part of our community for another. We all need to be supported, and we all need to get access to the resources that give us the abilities to survive during these trying times.
Absolutely. Very well put. One of the things that I wanted to bring out, because we originally met doing drug education in the New York City area, and putting out information so that kids would realize the dangers of drugs. And one of the things I've always noted about you is that you do what's right, and you don't necessarily do what's going to get you politically correct, but you do what's good for the community. And so what I wanted to ask you, in terms of what's going on with drugs and with the increase of drug usage because of COVID, how do you feel about what needs to happen in terms of drug education and, on our youth and our communities?
It's always been part of the conversation that education and treatment are the solution, right? We cannot criminalize everyone. And then during these times, especially during the COVID times, when we need to have extra mental health services and extra resources, not only for our kids, but for the adults, for the families, I think it's extremely important. Drug education is what prevents young adults and children from getting involved at all. If we truly share the message and speak from the heart, we have plenty of people who have gone down that road who can speak from personal experience. And then you have law enforcement officers who can tell you what the pitfalls are and why it becomes criminalized and how it can negatively impact you in your future and how it devastates families. So we believe that the key element, as you has always taught, is education. And the drug-free program is extremely important, and it's going to be a critical component to us preserving our communities and growing as we move forward. We cannot fall behind in that messaging, even through tough times. The messaging is important, and we need to make sure that we stay on top of that messaging. We can't necessarily say, oh, because it's tough times, we're going to fall back now, and we're going to stop the education part. We're going to stop telling people what's right and what's wrong and educating them so they can make good choices, right? When you provide the additional services, then you allow people to make good choices. Ultimately, it is their choice, but it's up to us in the service industry to make sure that we're providing them different venues, different avenues for information, different means of communicating. Sometimes messages have to come from different people so it can be heard properly in different communities, right? So I think it's very important. You know, your program has reached millions and millions of people around the world and here in New York. And I think it's something that is unfortunately overlooked in how important the education process is. Education, and then there's treatment. And we have to make sure that we use those tools and we don't criminalize those behaviors and destroy people's lives when they need help.
Absolutely. One of the things I know that you've spoken to me quite a bit about, I think it's a very good viewpoint that you have, is of working with the entire community in all the different aspects. And I'm sure that the viewers out there would be very interested in what it is and how you would go about uniting the communities in our New York area so that we can actually overcome these difficulties that we're facing. So please say a few words about that, Anthony.
Yeah, listen, running for public office gives you the ability to have creative ideas where all the different cultures get to exchange their ideas and share. So it's not a surprise, it's not fear. It's through education and exchange that we now get to the common ground that we're all human beings and that we all need to be respected. So I think that's a great place to be able to provide that kind of climate. We reach, again, I'm also talked about running county committee seats, right? There are over 4,000 in the city of New York. And just in my district alone, there are 172 seats available for community residents. And when I say that, I mean that we don't need to be run by politicians. We need to be able to have our voices at the table heard and respected. So next year, we're running 172 county committee people in this particular district to empower people. That means every 4 blocks, no matter where you live at, no matter what part of the country you're listening to this message, if there's a Democratic Party and an Independent Party and Republican Party, they all have the same position. The problem is that we don't take advantage of it because it's not talked about and people don't educate us. So I'm going to educate you. It's called County Committee. If you need more information about what that is, I will be forwarded to you. County committee is so important because they decide what the agenda will be for whatever political party you belong to. Again, so I'm not telling you to join the Democrats or Republicans. Wherever you are, there is a place for your voice to be heard where you can participate in what the message will be, what are the issues we have concerns about, and who will lead who will lead your party. Too often we allow politicians to make that decision when that should be made by people like you and I. We should be making a decision of who's going to represent us as the Democratic Party leader or the Republican Party leader or the Independent Party leader. All the parties have it. So remember this county committee. If nobody ever talked to you about it, wherever you go to, wherever you're living at, whatever community you're in, county committee positions.
Very good. Well, you know what? We're getting towards the end of the show, and there's so many things we still have yet to cover. But I wanted to give you an opportunity here at the end with the viewers to voice what you feel is most important that you'd like to have them take home from today's interview that we've had.
Education is the key element about us growing as a community and protecting not only our younger generations, but protecting us all. Education is that key element, the exchange of information, the exchange of culture. We all have the power to make a difference. Too often we get minimized. Please, I encourage you to say, don't become minimized, and say your vote, believe it, your vote and your decisions matter. The elections across the United States may be decided by as little as 50 votes. And sometimes too often only 10% of our community is actually out there voting. That means that 10% of the people are making decisions about what's going to impact 90% of the lives of everybody else. We need to change that equation. We need to have 90% or 100% of the people participating and voting and making decisions that impact our lives, our children's, our families, our communities. It's extremely important. Remember, my name is Anthony Miranda. You can find me on the internet. I've had the same phone number for over 40 years, so people can reach me across the United States when they call me. We're a service, and we believe that we're here to serve our community and the people in need. Dr. Fialkoff, they have a great program, Drug Free America. It's a key element, right? And just think of what they were able to accomplish with this one message and the communities they've been able to impact. So I said, take that message now and broaden it just a little bit more, and the same network that we have, and share our cultural exchange of ideas, exchange of education in general, of our healthcare, of our businesses. I mean, I think most people feel like our lives are back. I want to change that. I want to say that our lives are in a place for reform. And we can reform anything around us as long as we're all working together. And I'm looking forward to working with you, as we always have in the future, and building, because what we build now will impact the future.
Absolutely. I think it's very important. And that you said something that I think is so true in today's world. We're not at a point where things are going down. We're at a point where things are changing. We're not at a point where things are going to be hopeless. We're at a point where the importance of each other, the importance of humanity, of the different cultures, and listening to each other is becoming more obvious. Some of these old ways of governing are going away, and it's a pleasure to see that someone like you, who wants to bring people together and in reality have them interact and make a better community as a whole, is there for us. So I want to thank you for having been on the show.
Of course, thank you, Doctor.
It's always a pleasure to have you. You're a very, tough guy. You're a very straight guy. You tell it like it is. And for those of you there on A Time for Truth, El Tiempo para la Verdad, I hope that you had a good time. Esperamos que tuvimos un buen tiempo, and let's see what we can do about making this New York area even better next year and keep things going forward.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got. The world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your feet